Fairy tales often tell fantastic stories of girls in unfortunate circumstances who end up at a prestigious academy where they have a fateful encounter with some dashing prince, ultimately falling in love and having their happy ever after. It's a tale that many young girls get drawn into, and a hope held by one such orphan girl, Elsa Dorothy, that one day she too will meet the person she's destined to be with. However, after she arrives at Hearthwarner Imperial Academy of Magic, reality proves to be far more cruel. Rather than meeting a dashing prince, all she has been met with is hate from the students of this academy. Something a mere commoner like herself can do nothing to stop, especially when her opponents are a bunch of nobles, not helped by the fact that among them is the most esteemed and meanest looking of them all, Yvonne Smollett. She's the daughter of a duke and also happens to be her deskmate. This has the unfortunate effect of causing other nobles to gather near Elsa, entirely for Yvonne. And while they were usually just sucking up to her, by being in such close proximity, even when Elsa is minding her own business, those nobles inevitably start despairing her just to pass time, purposely doing it while knowing Elsa can hear it all clearly, because those nobles already know that Elsa already knows. No one would be willing to stick up for her. In this academy, she's all alone.
All of you are being extraordinarily rude.
It came as a surprise to Elsa, to everyone, that Yvonne herself would take a stand against the hurtful words thrown towards Elsa, to defend her place at this academy as one earned through hard work. That unlike everyone else who arrived here through connections and family status, Elsa got into the academy through her own merit. Results no one can speak down on unless they themselves can match it. And it was from that Elsa realized that Yvonne might just be different from the other nobles. Yet even after saying all that in her defense, Yvonne makes it clear that she intends to bully Elsa herself. A strange declaration to be making given the ardent defense of Elsa she just gave, but Yvonne makes true to that promise, bullying her, yet in strange ways. Like once Yvonne spilled ink on her desk, rendering it unusable for class, but would immediately clean it up afterwards, leaving the table cleaner than it was from the start. Or the time Yvonne took her textbook from her, something that would get Elsa in trouble while leaving her without reference material during class. Yet, before it could ever come to that, Yvonne decides to share her own textbook with Elsa, so that she wouldn't get in trouble nor struggle during class, all while noticing that Elsa's book was quite torn up, likely caused by somebody else, and so took it to prevent further damage. Because, as Yvonne puts it, only she is allowed to bully Elsa, no one else. There was even a time when Elsa was about to sit down, yet Yvonne pulled the chair out from under her, and then proceeded to just catch her anyways so she wouldn't get hurt, all to prevent Elsa from sitting on a spike someone else put on her chair to seriously harm her. Yvonne's, quote, bullying was more warm than any kindness she has ever experienced. But in the end, the bullying doesn't stop. Yvonne is still an entitled girl like the rest of them. They live in a different world in which bullying her is just a fun, harmless game to pass time. Thinking that, hurtful thoughts creep into her mind, voices affirming no one would love a poor orphan girl, that she's such a waste of space, everyone would be better off if she's dead. And before she knew it, she stood upon the rooftop of the academy, one step from a bad end. The harmful thoughts swirl around her like a benevolent tide, trying to force her body off the building as she slowly loses control.
Please, Elsa!
And it was at that moment someone stopped her from going any further. And who other than Yvonne herself,
Ladyship?
pulling her back from the brink of falling down. As since coming to this academy, it has always been Yvonne who shined a light through her despair. as Yvonne tells her she must endure just a little longer. Just one more year, and the bullying will stop. She will find her destined partner and have the fairy tale happy ever after she dreams of. And just when Elsa started to believe it, started to envision her soulmate and the happy end she wanted, the person who she believed could make that happen was gone. Yvonne had disappeared from her world, leaving her with only the promise that Elsa would meet her soulmate in 1 year. As she waited for that day, the day they would meet again. That was the mere beginning setup of the story of Please Bully Me, Miss Villainess. A web novel as I know it, but manhwa as you've all been seeing it. Part of the growing number of Otome Isekai stories out there. A genre targeted mostly for a female audience, where a girl finds themselves isekai'd into an Otome game, as usually the villainess, and ends up attracting the attention of all the male love interests. You can find plenty of these stories, especially if you read webtoons or frequent web novels like me. As for why I'm explaining this genre on a channel about Yuri, well, there's an infamous trope within some of these stories where the villainess befriends the OG female lead / Heroine, forming a bond so pure and a friendship that's actually healthy, they'd honestly make a better couple than the actual male lead. Like, real talk, I'm just trying to read my guilty pleasures and I constantly end up catching these strays for being a Yuri fan. I'm looking at you, Beware the Villainess, the antagonist's pet, exclusive mate of the evil empress, the one within the villainess. I'm no heroine. I mean, I will literally be reading a story titled Male Lead's Wife, where over half the story there's no romance between the protagonist and male lead, and then a girl shows up and it's just so gay. Stop doing this to me. So Yuri-minded individuals looked at these scenarios and thought, why not write the heroine and villainess getting together? And thus, peak Yuri was born. There are a few well-known ones like I Favorite the Villainess, which is a classic web novel. Magical Revolution is the best animated one. Mangas like Office Lady Serves the Villainess, or manhwas like Raising a Yandere Heroine or Villainess and Miss Demon Lord. And so much more. So many Yuri Villainess stories that I want to sell people on, but for now I'll stop tangenting and sticking to the subject of this video. Please Bully Me, Miss Villainess. And to stand out amongst the others of its genre, it has one unique gimmick: Yvonne and the Villainess system. Here's the thing, I didn't tell the full story in my intro, as I presented only Elsa's perspective. What I didn't show was that the whole time Yvonne was bullying Elsa, she was suffering from the Villainess system. Essentially the will of the world itself, forcing Yvonne to enact harm towards Elsa. And if she doesn't comply, there will be punishment. Usually she could get away by just doing minor stuff, like pouring water on Elsa's head or locking her in her room for a few minutes. They're annoying, but ultimately not too harmful an act of bullying. That wasn't the case, however, on the rooftop scene, where Yvonne was presented with only the option of killing Elsa. Something Yvonne refused to do, going against the system to save Elsa instead, resulting in punishment. One that would lead her entire family to being charged with treason to the country, causing most of her family's wealth to be confiscated, the loss of her noble status, and for her entire family to be exiled. Due to the investigation into her family's alleged criminal offenses, Yvonne effectively disappeared from the public for a year. So, after all that time and being sentenced to exile, Yvonne now lived at the far edge of the country. But at least she could go to school again, albeit at a minor academy. Though now without status and instead holding a family name infamous for treason, Yvonne ironically finds herself in a position of experiencing bullying from others. The very thing she had once done to Elsa, back towards her. As she has unfortunately gotten used to this bullying, because news that she's a fallen noble has reached everyone's ears, and no one takes kindly to her presence anymore. That is, except a certain girl who has been waiting for her, A girl who got so tired of waiting she ran halfway across the country just for her. And compared to dealing with a bunch of nobles back in the capital, if it's just some lesser commoners from the outskirts, she won't forgive them for bullying Yvonne. So, scaring them off with a bit of water and magic is no big deal. Oh, right, there's magic in this world? Kind of, didn't feel like it was too important to mention until now. Anyways, ain't that great? Elsa and Yvonne are together again. At least, it's good in Elsa's point of view, but a nightmare as far as Yvonne is concerned. But whether she wants it or not, Elsa will not let her go a second time. Yvonne still has a promise to fulfill, after all. It's been a year, and Elsa intends to see the soulmate she has been waiting for. All this time. With both their perspectives and reunion established, the story is now able to focus more on building their individual characters up, as well as their new chemistry together. Well, they still have the whole bully and being bullied dynamic since Yvonne is still being forced by the villainous system to enact harm towards Elsa, but compared to before, they can at least now more openly show they care for one another and rely on each other to get through hardships from now on. They even become roommates quite early on. How curious. So, if all that sounds good to you, then I highly encourage you to read Please Bully Me, Miss Villainess yourself. It's not a slow burn, their relationship is always the center of the story, and their romance is absolutely worth it. And if you are going to start, I do recommend you to just start from the beginning, from chapter 1, largely because, despite the fact of what I've covered, it's all only about like 5 chapters worth of content. There are hundreds of chapters of the manhwa and web novel to read in comparison, as I've only shown you a drop of the bucket. Otherwise, this is the end. Thanks for watching, and consider subscribing to stay up to date on my Yuri recommendations, explorations, and rants. Here's a Yuri meme to keep you company as I thank my Patreon supporters, which I now have 8. 9! To think it was only in the last video I had 5. Anyways, let me thank Golden Arms, Bisunabe, Ryujin199, Yuri Primable, Caroline Hippensteel, Pecans, Aroma Lasconohuff, and Stout Lover. And one more new one while making this video, Kurosami Fan. Thank you. I didn't think I would have to say a ship name every time now, but I'm all for it. Also, not a Patreon, but thanks to Hina Dogemura for the voice acting work again. Just as amazing as my previous video she helped with, which I hadn't planned to have for this video, but I felt like it would really help make those moments live, so I added it. Otherwise, to everyone else, to have a good day. Bye! For anyone that noticed or not, I had Ayakashi Gohan on my background, and I did so because I was gonna do this bit where I'd like Isekai into an Otome as one of the characters, but as anyone that's actually played an Otome game could tell you, the villainous trope basically doesn't exist in any of them. Nonetheless, I looked back on recent stuff I enjoyed like Jack John, Even If Tempest, or Japanese only titles like Tiny Machine Gun, Shiro Tukuro no Alice, but none of them had like the vibe I was looking for. Then I just started sorting through the games I played with pro tags who were kind of rude. And, well, look, I was just kind of settling at that point and decided to just go with little. But I had no clue where the game files were, for a lot of them in fact. So I kind of just gave up and thought the idea of itself was cringe anyways, so I scrapped it all together. Too bad there's just nothing that fits exactly what I want. Wait!